Alright guys, what's going on? This is build 3. What you can see is different from the last time we left off. I just had the front suspension done. Now I've gone ahead and I've built the rears. I saved the agonizing long video of putting these two drive axles together, seeing how this one drive axle here has a double pinion on it. These are both LSD rear ends, meaning limited slip. So sometimes two will hook up on one axle and one will hook up on the other. Most times it's one wheel over here and one wheel over here spinning. But I've gone ahead and I've assembled the leaf spring and bottom retainer assembly for that. I've installed the shocks on it, and it does have suspension to it. I've gone ahead, and this is different from the King hauler. I've put these steel plates on that also have the plastic running boards. We've got that on the frame. I've started assembly on the battery tray boxes, I want to say. I believe these are, no, these are actually, like, they call them the toolbox, but they'd really be more like a battery tray. I've done that. And my phone rings, of course. Here, take that and answer that.
No, really?
Really?
Thanks.
There you go. I've also gone ahead and assembled the fuel tank halves, which this is a little different focus. The back sides of these are hollowed out. Oh, look at that. You can see me. You can see my bald head, bald head, bald head. These are going to attach to the frame of the truck. So I've got both fuel tanks ready. Oh, I done assembled that one upside down. I'm going to take that apart and put it right together. Either way. There's that, and we're going to move along next and do some more to it, get some more done on it, and then we're going to go from there, and that'll be the second half of build 4, because we move into the transmission after that. So, yeah, we're going to do the transmission and putting all these assemblies on. What's up, guys? We're in the next series of the build, and I'm holding in my hand right here the most pain in the butt part of the entire build. This is the transmission for the truck, and it's just like any other standard Tamiya transmission. It is a pain in the ass to put together, but I've done enough of these now that it's kind of easy to do. It's like putting a little bit of grease on these before I do it. And then first gear to go on is your 20 tooth. That goes up against the C-clip that I've already gone ahead and put on. And then next would be the other side of the shaft here. I've already gone ahead and put the two pieces together. There's a this is a 36 tooth gear here and a 13 tooth gear inside of it. That slides onto the other end, and then you take yet another one of the awesome C-clips, slide that little sucker down, sometimes it's always awesome to have magnetized pliers, but there's the few occasions, like right now, it's kicking me in the butt. Alright, so we've got our upper gear. And now where that assembly sits, and you see this assembly here with the dual, you have to put another one on here, and another one here. And then you're going to put this gear here, and the short hub, that's going to go into that gear down there, and that's going to end up sitting effectively right here. So in order to do that, we've got to put another C-clip in. Well, we've got to put multiple C-clips in. So we're going to start with the first one. Come down here, get her lined up. This will probably be the longest video in the entire build, just due to the fact of how labor intensive these transmissions are. So we're still building this one. Now we've got to take this gear hub here. We've got to make another C-clip on here. So we go once again to the pile of C-clips. Get this one set on the shaft itself. Hopefully this can be a one shot. Okay, that one's on. Making sure everything looks right. So we got our short shaft. Next we take this gear here, which has, like I said, the little brass short hub. The gear is going to go on this way. And then once again we take our old friend C-hub, or C-clip. Because with the Tamiya transmissions you also have to put your motor on too as well. Alright, there's our upper shaft complete. This is the shaft that stays locked. I've also gone ahead and put together my one side of the case and our fork sliders for the 3-speed transmission, which this does have. Now we're going to move on to the lower shaft. The lower shaft has an outdrive on it. This is going to be facing, obviously, towards the back. So now we start with the large shaft. And it's telling me right now to go right here in the center and C-clip that. C-clip, E-clip. They're actually called E-rings, so I always call them a C. So we've got that done. Now this one, it does tell you to lubricate these two areas here. So using the standard Tamiya ceramic grease that comes with the kit, we've greased that up. Now I've got this gear already done. This is a 37 tooth gear. This one is going to slide down onto here. And then from the opposite side, we have to go to our parts tree over here and grab this thing, which is J7, which is basically this is what grabs your gears. And we're going to put bearings in this as well. Now these, if you're building with the stock bearings that come with it, these bearings are going to be the ones that are a little bit larger than the rest of the bearings in the kit. So now that we've got the bearings in both sides, we're going to slide this down all the way to the gear, I believe. Yes, that goes all the way down to the gear. And then you can hear it's got a stopper to it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put a C-clip on here. E-clip, C-clip, D-clip. Whatever the hell clip it is. I'm going to put that on there. Drop it down into place. Pop that in. Next comes one of the metal hubs. And guess what? Another clip. No surprise there. So we're going to pop this one on now. And this one's going to give me a little bit of a hard time. Okay, so that's on. Now if you look here, there is somewhere this big washer right here. This is a very crucial part to have. That washer slides in down next to the bearing. Then you take your other piece here. That will slide down and it will not go any further than the E-clip. So this one, now we're looking for J8, so we're going to need to go in here and look at our parts. Here's our J8. So J8 is going to slide onto that, because obviously you see it'll go in there and it'll gauge another gear. But for the meantime, we're just going to leave it where it's at. And then we use a regular bearing. Well, actually the bearings go inside of this bigger gear here. So we put two bearings, one smaller bearing and one larger bearing in this one. That's that gear. This one's going to come down here. And then I believe a J5. Trying to see the numbers here. J5. Now, a lot of the times when you twist these things off the parts trees, they end up with those little ears on them. I just take a straight razor and chop them right off. So that's on there now, and we have to use yet another E-clip. Fortunately, we're almost done. And as usual, when you don't have anything helping to hold it, it's going to be prone to falling. Alright, so there's that assembly on there. That one's done, completed gear assembly. Minus the one other piece that we need to put on this end that has the hex hub. We need to go and get the J6, which is this piece right here. J6 goes on. That's in. And the last piece that we need here is just another simple double bearing gear, which we're going to slide on like that. And you guessed it, another E-clip. Luckily this time we have the brass bushing bearing, whatever you want to call it, because to me a brass bearing is an oxymoron, but Lord, it figures it's going to give me trouble the whole way around. The last one's always the hardest. Okay, there's your completed lower gear assembly. So now we're going to move on and we're going to go to the actual transmission here, the plate. Let me get you guys sitting up a little bit higher so you can see what's going on. Like I said, this one will probably be the longest video out of the entire build series, just due to the fact of how complex this build is. For the transmission, I just want to show you guys. So we take one of the multiple J3s here, bend it off, pop the end of it in here, and then we take a bearing, bushing, whatever. We also put one up here in the top, if it wants to go in. This is where, when you need the extra force, just take a pair of needle nose pliers and just pop it in. Or if you want to get even more extreme, if I can find it, the best way I've found is actually take a center punch, you don't want to do it super hard. There, center punch it in. That way the bearing is sitting in the cup the way it's supposed to be. So we've got both our bearings in there. Now we go ahead and we take our upper shaft, note the gear direction, which way it goes in. Upper shaft is going to slide down in here and go in there like so. There's our upper gear. set. I have to rearrange you guys again. That's our upper gear set. And now on the back plate of the engine, well, transmission rather, we take the other two cups for it, take them off the tree. Once again, always note the direction of which way your plate is facing so you don't accidentally put the cups in the wrong end. Pop that in. Pop that in. Insert bearings, or whatever you want to call them. Insert them in. And as usual, once again, if you run into the problem of it not wanting to seat correctly, just take a flat punch drive and knock it right in there. So our bearing caps are sitting the right way, as you can tell by looking at it. We need to take our lower assembly now, once again noting the direction of it, and set it down in there too as well. And before we go ahead and button anything up, we need to take our gear slider assembly. And that needs to also go down inside the hole down here. Once you get it down, you can tilt the transmission on its side, and then you'll see where the shift forks are supposed to go. So it's just a matter of finagling them into place. We bring that one down. Bring our next shift fork over. Usually when you do this, you line all three of them up. I obviously still have things to learn about a Tamiya transmission because it wasn't this complex last time around, but hey, every kit's different. So as I get that one in, slide it down until it meets up with the other one. Get our first one lined up, our second one lined up, our third one's all lined up. Now there's springs that go on both ends of these. And now as you can see, the forks are on all the gears. So now is when you take and you just dab some ceramic grease in between the gears here. Just grab them on a little bit, dab some in there. Make sure you don't skimp out on it because it's really beneficial to the transmission if you do it right the first time. And once again, always make sure that before you go to put anything together, make sure that all your shift forks and everything are lining up, which constantly these ones are coming unaligned, so it's basically you just got to play around with it till you get them all centered up. Now if this is off camera, I'm sorry, because I'm trying to get all these lined up and together. Gotta get the throw out bearing on here. Throw outs on. Bring this one around. Slide it up. Slide that one around. Get the primary back where it was supposed to be. This is often the most challenging slash annoying part of doing these kits is putting these transmissions together, but to get the 3 speeds of awesome you kind of need it. So I'm going to very loosely have mine set up until I can get all three of these shift forks to line up. This last one's being a little bit of a pain in the butt, but I'll get it. There we go. Come on, let go of the gears so this can come back. Damn it. Come on. And as usual, the back one slid off, so we got all three of them lined up finally. All three of our shift forks are lined up. Looking at the assembly now. The only thing that's left now to do is to take one of these little BA4s, a little bit of thread locker, and our last lower support for the tranny here. And the easiest way I've found to do it is, since they are thread-ons, to hold it in your hand and start the screw. Get it down. Remember to get that other spring back on. You got all four of those hooked up. Of course, the bearing will drop out occasionally. Pop that back down its hole. Put the back plate on your transmission. There we go. Now you can see we've got a whole assembly there. Now, before you start rushing off and doing everything else, you've got to take the other end of your transmission that you've just assembled with four more of these little BA4s. Just dab them a little bit with some locker. Once again, this is going to be like the longest video just for a build. But I wanted to show you guys just exactly how complex these Tamiya transmissions really are. I can tighten up this bottom one too that I just put in. Now you can see right there, that's how gears change out. Using the shift forks. I'm going to keep dabbing these bolts with locker. The last thing you want to do is get this thing put all together and all of a sudden one of your transmission bolts comes loose. All I'm doing off camera right here is just tightening in a screw to get the front and back plates to line up. And we've got two more. Go ahead and get this one in the hole. Get this one going here. And we've got one more of these BA4s. And then there's one little step that if you miss it in the beginning, it's really hard to do afterwards. Alright, so we've got our whole transmission case put together. Rotating assembly, all four corners together. Now what we do is on the back side where the pinion is, we take our last pinion chuck, grab another grub screw here. I'm going to set that on my Allen head. And we put a little dab of locker on that too. And then just drive that one in home. And that serves as your end for when we put in this very long drive shaft. They'll go from the transmission to the rear end. which it is an aluminum drive shaft. Now on mine, they tell you to put a J4 spacer, which would be this last piece right here, but that piece seems to make my transmission bind up. But on this one, it looks like it's going to be a little bit different than the King Hauler was, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this grub back off. But there you go, guys. There's a 23-minute video on how to assemble a transmission. Next one will be the motor mounting and all that other junk. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll move on to the next build.